Hi everyone, this video is about area. It's an introduction, and then we're going to look at how you find the area of a rectangle. So the area of an object is the amount of space that that shape or object covers. So if you think about a room, if you were going to put carpet in a room, if you wanted to know how much carpet you needed, you'd be thinking about the area of the room. That's the amount of space that that floor is covering. Area is measured in square units, so if we're looking at centimeters, we would say centimeters squared or meters squared, and it's a two-dimensional measurement. So if we take a look at this first diagram here, if we wanted to know the area that shaded square there is covering, we could see we have 1, 2, 3, 4 square units. Okay, it doesn't say specifically if it's centimeters or meters, so we just say units. In the second diagram here, we'd have to do sort of a little bit of investigating. So I can see I've got one full square unit here, one full square unit here. You can say that this one and this one add up to 1, and then this sort of triangle and this triangle add up to 1. So altogether, I've also got 4 square units. So you can see that although both shapes are different, they actually have the same area. If I was looking at a rectangle like this, and I told you this rectangle here has got a one dimension is 7 centimeters and the other is 3 centimeters. What I could do is I could say, okay, well, if I divided those up into 1 centimeter squares, I could count all of those squares. So if I went through and counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and counted all of them. But obviously a quicker way to look at that would be, well, I've got 7 squares by 3 squares, so that's actually multiplication. So my area would be just 7 centimeters times 3 centimeters, or 21 centimeters square. Okay, so with a rectangle, we need to multiply the two lengths together, and what we're going to call those lengths here is I'm going to call this the base and the height. So the area is always the base times the height in a rectangle. And you might have heard of this as length times width, and that's fine. That means exactly the same thing. But for consistency with the other shapes, we're actually going to use base and height as our 2 dimensions. And what's important is that the base and the height are perpendicular to each other. Okay, so they intersect at a right angle. So using our formula, I'll just rewrite it at the top here. Area is base times height. Let's work out the answers to these examples. So the first one is, what is the area of this rectangle? Well, we know it's got a base of 2 and a height of 5. So the area is just going to be 2 times 5, which is 10 centimeters squared. Okay? Don't forget your units when you've got your final answer. Now in this second question here, we're asked, what is the height of this rectangle? So we know the area is 24 meters squared, and we know the base is 8. Okay, so to work out the height, we might say something like, okay, so I know area is base times height. My area now is 24, which is equal to the base, which is 8, times the height. And to work out the height then, I need to do 24 divided by 8, which is 3 meters. Okay, so checking that, if I fill that in, I can see 8 times 3 gives me 24 meters square, so that's the correct answer. The last thing we're going to look at is just converting between metric units. Now we all know, we've learned in a previous lesson, that in 1 meter we have 100 centimeters. But is the same true if I have 1 meter square? Let's take a look at a diagram to see what we mean here. If I said to you, the area of this square is 1 meter square, that means it's a square that is 1 meter by 1 meter. So the area of this is 1 meter squared. If I took that same square, and I'll just write them in a different color, and I converted my lengths to centimeters, that means I would have a base of 100 centimeters and a height of 100 centimeters. So my area in centimeters would actually be 100 times 100, which is 10,000 centimeters squared. So in this case here, 1 meter squared is actually equal to 10,000 centimeters squared. Okay, and the way we can sort of think about this is, I know that, let's go back to 1 meter, is 100 centimeters. So 1 meter squared would be 100 squared centimeters squared, and 100 squared is that 10,000. So when you're converting between areas, you need to actually square your conversion rates. Okay, so now in your workbook, I'd like you to answer the following questions. First of all, what do you need to know about a rectangle in order to calculate the area? What's the formula for the area of a square? So we looked at a rectangle already. What is the formula for the area of a square? And the third question, I want you to draw a rectangle that has a perimeter of 24 centimeters and an area of 32 centimeters square. Okay, once you're finished that, you can go on to do some practice exercises in your book in section 11D.